All right, North Florida high school football fans, welcome to another edition of the Extra Point. Week 11 in the books, and we got a bonus week of football in the North Florida area. It's going to be lots of fun. We get some, kind of some charity football to go along with everything that's been going on. But, man, it's been a great week, a nice exclamation point for a couple of teams to be able to get some really significant wins going down the stretch. I think we watched probably one of the we had a chance to stream one of the better games going on in the area, and it was absolutely man, great atmosphere, everything that you'd want from one of the final games of the regular season. Leon got that first dub. They went out with a bang. Congrats to those seniors. And we saw quite a bit of football in the area. I think a lot of the playoff picture began to shake out for us. And we have that all broken down. We're going to talk about some very some things that make you scratch your head, some discrepancies definitely across the landscape. It's just too much to get into all at once, but hopefully we can run it down for you guys. Great football weekend. I enjoyed watching at least Saquon Barkley do the little backwards jump over. What was that? They were playing the Giants.
Man, that ain't nothing. I did that the whole time in high school.
It was a great week of football. I saw some very interesting things, especially in the college football landscape. But man, we would definitely have to take a moment to get into it before we start chopping up all of this playoff stuff here. I'm trying to make sure we are live on Instagram. So let me go ahead and hit that. Forget we got to do it through two channels today. So hopefully we'll get some extra people joining us. This is the Extra Point, but it's time to jump into essentially what was a great homecoming win for Florida A&M. The Rattlers look good. It looked like, the all three phases of the game looked good. I didn't see where, most of the areas that have been getting called out, especially on defensive front or maybe in the play calling, none of that looked like it was a factor on Saturday at Bragg.
Yeah, it was a great afternoon. Fortunately, I got ESPN Plus. I just sat at my home and watched it. I mean, it was a great game. I love watching. I just love sitting here watching the games, and it seemed like the team is picking up speed now. They're doing a lot better than they did at the beginning of the year. They were giving up big runs, and now they're like the defense has come around, and it is fun to watch. And for one little mistake back, for Jackson State, they would be in a hunt to win their side of the conference. But
there's a rumor going around that Jackson State might be caught up in some cheating. I'm not sure if there's any truth to it, but if so, that would take away one SWAC win. So
man, I
got to play Alabama State. So that might.
They got upset last week, but I forgot who beat them. But they like 4-4 right now. I wouldn't depend on that. But it looks good for the Rattlers, having a good season. They're picking right up where Willie Simmons left off, and hey, the program is a program now. They lost a lot of players, and they continue to be successful. They're going to always compete for that SWAC championship.
I hope the SWAC gets rid of divisions and just does it,
the top two
teams. I would love to see a rematch, honestly.
Oh, man. It would be nice because I think my favoritism toward the Rattlers and stuff, I think they go out and they probably beat them this time, especially if we got to play at home.
Yeah. That team across the street, though, worries me so much, man. It just bothers me. It doesn't feel right. How have things progressed to this point? I just scratch my head.
I don't get it.
Never seen. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I mean. And it's not like they don't have great players, 4-star, 5 stars. They got all these players, and they're not performing. That I hate to be sitting up there. People want to blame the coaches. They want to blame the effort that I see in the game is bad.
Is
they jogging and walking to stuff. I'm like, Have they quit? Or have they given up?
The culture seems off. And that's the most surprising thing. The energy on the sidelines I saw last year under Norvell versus this year, and then Norvell looking like a deer in head. What at this point, what do you do? Do you fire Norvell? Do you move on? Do you pay the $65 million? Do you get rid of the assistant coaches? What do you do?
Mark, do you think these guys forgot how to coach from last year? The only difference in that team is the players. People like to blame the coach. You forget even they can't coach anymore. They didn't forget how to coach. The effort I see is a problem, and that's what I noticed. Effort. You can't just go there and jog. And the body language is bad.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, I can't. It's hard to watch. And
it really is hard to watch.
What Jupe, you hadn't said a word. I mean, I think Jupe got friends over there. You don't want to make anybody.
No, probably because it hurt too much.
No sound.
Oh, Jupe, we lost you on your audio.
All right, sorry about. Is that good?
There we go. Yeah, got you back.
Okay, sorry about that. That's on me.
All the curse words you were swearing.
he did it on purpose.
Yeah, Coach just got the buzzer going. Boop, boop, boop.
He did it on purpose.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd stay on the other side of the street. I'd much rather talk about Richardson throwing 5 touchdowns because there's only one team in the nation that hasn't scored 21 points this year. FAMU scored 21 in the first half, and then they scored 21 in the third quarter, and Texas Southern also scored 21 in the third quarter. So just to contextualize that, there were 2 teams that both scored more in one quarter, a stone's throw away from the stadium, than FSU cannot do in a complete 4 quarters.
Can we talk about just having the games at the same? Just everything seems off with Florida State. I'm sorry. This whole club that they're building, I've seen the drawings and the renderings. I'm like, that's novel, but it's not really necessary. I don't think you get. It's like there are people. I don't know. I'm calling it conspiracy. Somebody's trying to. I'm gonna say it. It feels like somebody's trying to wreck FSU football. The DJ is off. You playing weird music. You won't let the band play the war chant. Like you've got season ticket holders are mad. Like you've got all of these weird, odd things going on around the program. Something seems wrong over there. I don't know if they need to burn some sage around. Doak Campbell Stadium, or somebody need to go up in there and cleanse that out. That seems like something happened on a spiritual level.
Mark, you blaming everybody but the people you need to blame. It's from the coach's point of view, they're not getting the effort out of that team.
No,
I mean you want effort, and with effort they can score 21 points, and they get close. They move the football. Then they come out, and then it go about 2 or 3 series. They don't move the football. It's you can't get in a lot of third and whatever. Sometimes you need to get big plays. You got to have explosive plays. You can't just move the ball methodically down the field. You need somebody to make a big play, and that's up to players.
Yeah,
you can. They got to make a play. When you have great players, they do that.
I mean, we might as well go with some kind of like wing T or triple option at this point. If the receivers can't catch the ball, we can't get anything going. Maybe we just start running reverses and flea flickers. And I know blocking's not 100% too hot right now, but if we just do something, maybe we can get people out in space. If we stick to the same thing every play, maybe
there's. At this point, you can really get creative with a lot of things. I don't know that that's a bad thing, but I do like that some of the younger guys are getting some playing time. That is one of the sole bright spots. Hopefully, there's a fix. But yeah, it definitely sounds like they just need a fresh start somewhere up in there. So
yeah, get up in the stands and interview the fans. You probably
no, I don't think they could do that. That might not be made for TV.
No way. Man, not on TV. It's not. No, yeah.
Man, you look at it and it's like it's unbelievable. Yeah, I've been around. I've watched FSU football for decades. I don't want to say how old I am, but I remember when they went 0 and whatever, and I think it was 74. They made it, and the next thing you did, they made a coaching change, and then they wasn't satisfied. Then they brought Bobby Bowden on in 75, and you sometimes juice or something comes in, and a great player will make a big difference. I guarantee you, I will put money, and I can't prove it. For example, it had the quarterback at the University of Miami came to Florida State, we wouldn't be even having these conversations. So one player can interject that into your team and make plays.
Makes you wonder about the Travis Hunter situation.
Oh, man. You had him on your team. Man, I want to bring
He was a diehard commit.
Florida State people would be kind of upset thinking about that. Watching him play on television, seeing what could have been. But I think the position that would make the most change would be a dynamic quarterback. And if you're not developing ones, I guess somebody in the portal will be free this year.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the money's got to go. Dump some money into offensive line coach. Dump some money in a new linebackers coach. Dump some money into a quarterback developer. You got this South Georgia 4-star, or I guess not South Georgia. The kid, Cromanoke, Luke, get him going. I mean, if you can develop these guys, like they'll have it going on. But
is that the quarterback that played some this year?
Yeah, so he's.
Georgia. I think he got a lot of promise. But if you can't run the football too, I mean, dang, you can't get 3rd and 1, and you're gonna have a hard time getting 1 yard. It's kind of difficult. Then the schedule doesn't. They thank God for Charleston Southern, I guess. You're playing Notre Dame on national TV on Saturday, and they had nerve to push it to promote it. I'm like, ain't nobody gonna sit up to watch what they assume could be a blowout, but
yeah,
and it was sad. The defense played so much better as the season went on, and looked like they're not taking advantage of it.
And I mean, it, Coach. You know how it goes in. Same thing in high school ball. Is like you could have a really good defense, but if the offense isn't giving them any help, it's only a certain amount of time before the levee breaks or the dam breaks, and then it's just, and then there's no way you can get the water back in at that point. The defense can only do so much without any help.
Well, I'm not gonna say I was offensive coordinator. And I only scored 1 touchdown in this championship game, and we won. The defense scored the other one, and they shut the other team out. So I'm like, hey, great defense is important. I mean, now you can't be like that all season, but when you got some people that make plays, which seems to be the problem, they catch a 10-yard pass, and all they get is 10 yards. They got to have somebody to break loose or do something special. I seen that earlier. A couple of guys I hadn't seen. I hadn't seen those guys. The number 1, I forgot his name, but he made some big plays earlier in the season, and I hadn't seen him lately.
Will, you wrong for that one. Will, you wrong for that one.
Yeah.
This is what I do think. I definitely think Gaston County got some players that can help FSU out right now.
Hey, wait a minute. They got 2 out there right now. They got 2 players on.
I think some guys from this year's Gaston County squad.
But guess what?
Cause an impact.
They seem to be playing pretty good. Those 2 players.
Yeah.
Hey, a bright spot.
Yeah. The last half of the season, once Farmer got healthy, Farmer's been tearing it up. So that's not on him.
Man, he's been
Shout out Joshua Farmer. Yeah.
So hey,
we'll take a moment and get.
We starting to coach now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and
Mark, I don't think you get an interview with Coach Norville today.
absolutely not. So this is one bright spot. Fam, you got the glow in the dark cleats. Those are pretty. I thought the way they looked, I was just like, man, those are dope. I gotta get a pair of those.
What you need them for? You don't play?
Hey, collector's item.
And
That's a collector's item.
I agree.
One of one.
I agree, Mark. They're awesome, but they've got no functional use because anytime you're playing football, you gotta have the lights on.
Yeah.
So I think they are dope. I'll give you that. But
hey, just from a marketing standpoint, who else has glow in the dark cleats?
that's true.
I'm with it. I'm with it.
When they turn the lights off,
Seminoles, it's basketball season. Let's just go ahead and just call it.
Man, look at you,
basketball season.
A coach told me basketball is just something to do till football season starts. So let's let football in before we worry about that. Big. Who did they beat?
Northern Kentucky. Powerhouse.
Not the real. Hey, a win is a win.
Let me go fix my acoustics real fast. But yeah, a win is a win. But this is, this is one where I think FSU fans can finally just enjoy the dub. It doesn't matter who get it. Just enjoy it. Then of course we had the backwards jump.
Oh man, that's one of the best plays. I love watching it over and over and over. What he did before that was something special. He shook one. He shook one. He juked another one, and then the last thing was jumping over backwards. I'm like, Did you see the cut up of his teammates on the sideline? They showed.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh man, they were like, because one guy looked like that's unreal. Especially when it's your team. God.
Right.
Oh man, I'm gonna watch them next week. They play the Cowboys. Go Eagles.
The spin move alone was pretty ridiculous.
Oh man, that was just. And for you sitting over there looking at that, you was like, how in the heck did he see that man behind him like that? And I can imagine being a coach and rewinding that play over and over on the defense. Look at it. Look at how you miss a big old man like that. And they got the video all over the country. And then that picture, I hadn't got that photo right there, man. They
turned it into an ad. It's an advertisement now for Nike.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's the new Odell catch. That's the play for the next 5 years.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
And
Facts.
Telling young guys don't try that.
I mean,
you might not be successful.
For a second there, I thought you were bringing up some old tape, Mark. I thought it was like the baby, or I thought it was some alternate uniforms from Coach tearing it up back in the day. I thought that was him on his way into the Niceville end zone. Was it 4 times, Coach? 4 times?
Check this out. If they had I had one film I made one game where I made play of the week, and you can ask my teammates. I faked out the whole team on the other side and scored a touchdown. Now, I didn't jump over nobody. I did some moves. So if I did that right now, y'all have ambulance and be waiting on me when to make the first move. But that was one of the best plays I've ever seen. I mean, jump over somebody backwards. God.
Yeah.
I would love to be sitting there watching and talking to him after. I wish we could interview him on our format, because I want to ask him, how the heck you knew that? How the heck you do that? What were you thinking about?
All right, we need to go ahead and talk about week number 11, last week of the regular season in the North Florida area. And man, what a good one we saw over at Mike Hickman Stadium, Florida High Mosley. And honestly, this is one where Mosley was out in control of this one early on. And I want to say up until maybe about 2 minutes into the fourth. Is that about right, Jude?
Yeah.
They scored with 6 seconds on the clock.
Yep.
So one of the biggest things about this game, I believe, is that, you know, two takeaways that I saw is that Florida High defensively, their defensive front is the real deal. Like, they were in Mosley's backfield all night. Like, Freitas, I think, was seeing different looks that he probably had not seen before. And, you know, for the most part, it wasn't that Mosley wasn't in control, because I think the hitch, the curl, and the slant routes were absolutely, you know, bailing them out time and time again going down the stretch. And I think that was just one of those things where we saw Mosley several times. One of the reasons why they're so good, they kept extending the drives. So for Florida High's defense to be on the field that long, especially in the latter parts of the first half, going into the well into the third quarter, I feel like we got a chance to see a lot of what both teams bring. Mosley's definitely going to be a great playoff team, even though they came up on the losing side of this one. They do a lot of things well. I think it just had a lot to do with I don't know that Mosley has played a full 4-quarter game and been in a dogfight to the very end. So that may have been just a little bit of being in an element where they just hadn't experienced before. Even the Niceville game, they kind of put it away and shut the door in the fourth quarter and had a chance to cruise in that victory. And I think what happened here is that, like, they, you know, for the first time all season, they were in a dogfight for 48 minutes.
Yeah, I had a chance to watch it on the broadcast, and I watched so many games. I just turned away from it because I figured it was over. And then I could, you know, leave the sound on you guys, and I heard you screaming and carrying on. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like, I can't believe they came back. And it looked like it was nothing Mosley could do to stop them. And you guys did so much screaming on my computer with all the action. I guess you're gonna show some. It was unbelievable how they played, how they made a comeback. That was special.
Yeah, and kind of to Mark's point, the defense was on it all night, and I think they were set on stopping the run. They brought pressure all night long, whether it was in the run game, in the pass game. And so, to your point, Mark, they were getting some good slants and stuff, keeping them alive early. But the defense did just enough to keep them into the game. You know, it was Florida High had only scored 9 points going into that fourth quarter. But on the other side, they had only allowed 21. So it's still a 2-possession game. So you get one score, everything changes. And they were able to execute down the stretch. I thought the defense was fantastic. Noah Deem was an absolute beast. Maurice Adams Jr., the rest of the front seven. Going back and kind of watching film, basically all throughout that Mosley had been playing, nobody put pressure on Freitas that I had seen in a situation like that consistently.
Right.
Consistently, like you said, they were after him all night long. And we saw what we saw against Florida High, that the run game got going and then some explosive plays in the offense. And sometimes things fall your way a little bit. You get some momentum. You're playing at home. But, yeah, they're the real deal, and it's going to make an even more wild, because I think I kind of had them in a second tier in 2A. But I think they're not straight up there in kind of that, 1A situation here. I think it's kind of Gadsden and everybody else, but, Florida High, I could see going toe-to-toe with Catholic, Bowles, Mariana, everybody from the West Bay. And I'd love to see them have another shot at Gadsden. That would be really fun, which we could see as soon as the second round, potentially. But that's going to be an absolutely wild region up there. Region 1, Class 2A.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Hopefully, in the latter part of the show, we'll have that conversation. But yeah, it was a great game. You can see, and for Mosley, I think they should take away from this is the fact that, like, you get to fix those things, and you get 2 weeks to do it. Like, that's the biggest takeaway from that. It's like, yeah, I know the 10-0, not going 10-0 definitely stings when it was right there 1 quarter away. I get that part. But how good is it? Because I know a bunch of 14-1 state champions. There's plenty of those out there. So you get a chance to fix up and Coach, you could probably speak to this. You get 2 weeks to kind of fix a lot of those issues. And that's critical time.
Well, it was a little different when we were playing. You didn't get it was just the next week. when the season ends unless you had an open date at the end of the season. These what I watched Moses play 2 or 3 times this season. I never seen him falter at the end of the game like they did. It looked like it wasn't nothing they could do to stop Florida High from moving the ball, and they got down when they got in. The biggest play of that series, the last series, was that when you just showed where they threw a screen pass. It was like 3rd and 19, and they made a first down, and kind of I think it put Moses on their heels. Then they were really, you could tell they had the way they were looking around, walking, because they didn't expect them to come and throw that. They didn't expect to give up 19 yards on 3rd down.
Right.
They thought they were going to at least hold them to a 4th and whatever. But great play call by the Seminoles to get in position to take the lead.
It just makes you wonder now, like with the way everything else is set up, it kind of makes you wonder if a lot of teams really, for the past 6 weeks, I think we've seen a complete reversal where some teams have kept the momentum going and quite a few have just kind of like came out of nowhere. But yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's go ahead and talk about Franklin County hooking up with Osceola. I have been waiting on this one personally all year because I thought that both teams matched up very well, but Osceola took this one going away, just a resounding 28-12 win over Franklin. And Coach Cooper definitely told me, he said, look, the back half of our season, our schedule is going to be really tough. And I didn't see it that way, but I think he kind of knew what talent level he was going up against. A lot of what Franklin County has done this year is definitely been unprecedented, starting off, ripping off 6 straight wins or 5 straight wins to start the year. But what is even more impressive, I think, is the job that Osceola Christian has done. Very quietly, very methodically, they've gone through and they've kind of beaten everybody to move to a 10-0 season. And, man, my congrats goes to Coach Roberts and his staff. They did a heck of a job this year. And looking at being able to that was one of the final, I felt like, tests because we kind of had a chance to see Franklin, but we really hadn't had a chance to see, Franklin's opponents, but not Osceola's in that same regard. So being able to look at, and honestly, it didn't feel like it was close, really, honestly, this game. So it could have been a lot to do. I think Osceola, Landon LaRosa had 100 yards on the ground, also was 10 of 17 passing. And I think he accounted for all 4 scores he was in on, 4 touchdowns. So yeah, the playmaking ability that Franklin County had, obviously, we got to start paying attention to playmaking ability that Osceola Christian brings because this team is definitely for real at this point.
Yeah, you go in a season. I didn't have any idea what Franklin would do this year. Osceola has been 10-0 before that. I mean, Coach Roberts does a great job with his kids. They've been in a situation. I mean, this is not the first time they've been undefeated. But Franklin having a chance to increase the school record, the best record they ever had was 6-4, and since the school been around, and had a chance to make that 7-3, would have been a great achievement for Coach Cooper and his staff, but it just wasn't in the cards. They played a very good Osceola football team and improvement. I don't know. I guess we'll look into the playoff scenario whether Franklin got a chance, and I'm sure you know. So I guess we'll get into. Hey, that ain't a good sign what you just gave. But you have a good season. I'm sure you're happy with that. You can't. There's no need to complain because I'm sure there's other schools who are more deservingly anyway. So.
And that's the thing is, yeah, I'm glad you bring it up as far as having a great season. I mean, everybody's playing their own game. And it's kind of the way college football is going with the playoff. Basically, they killed the bowl system. So, basically, it is now, hey, if you're not top 4, well, I guess now if you're top 12, then your season was a joke and it was a waste of time. So I think
that's hard.
I think regardless of that, kind of on the flip side of that, that's something I don't agree with. Everybody's got their own game. And so, like Franklin, this is a huge success, especially like we talked about trying to build that program. But yeah, shout out to Osceola. It is tough. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care where you're playing to go a full 10-0, which what do we cover, gang? There's what, 41, 42 teams? We had two teams going 10-0. That's what, 5%? 5%? 2 out of 40?
You're the genius as far as the numbers. That sounds about right.
Yeah, excuse me, not Gaston, but when you look at Osceola and like looking at how they have on guys multiple nights that go over a couple of 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's production. So, but yeah, moving on around the area, let's go ahead and talk about it. Gaston County in a big way all over Wakulla, 49-6. And I think we had Gaston County up in this game, but I did not see that kind of dominating score. And that's one of those things where it's just like you look at Gaston County's defense, and they have just absolutely been. I know the offense gets a lot of credit, but this defense has been absolutely stellar this season. And didn't see the Coffee County game. I heard there were a couple Gaston County people say there were some questionable calls, but
I saw that game.
Notwithstanding,
they made a bunch of mistakes, and I hate to give officials credit for losing, winning, and losing, but they gave up 2 big runs that put the game out for Coffee County, and I don't think officials had anything to do with that.
Yeah, you look at the way that they've dominated this past season. This is a team that definitely has earned their ranking, being number 1. They've got 2 backs that have gone over 1,000 yards this year. They've got all the right tools, and really just looking at the stat line here, like when you pull up and you actually see how, in my opinion, just the way that they've been able to just kind of dominate the line of scrimmage. Let me make sure I have this turned on properly. Hold up. There we go. There's just not a whole lot of room to be able to operate against this team. Like when you take a look at both Camarion Battles and Tristan Davis, like Tristan Davis, that's 191 yards. And then you got Battles at 120. Your defense is not getting a chance to do anything with that. So it's just kind of one of those things like pick your poison. This team looks like at a point right now where they can definitely be thrown into the state contender conversation.
Man, it's impressive with only 11 carries, man, getting those kind of yards. That is impressive. But from what I've seen of Gaston County, that region they're in, it's going to be very difficult to get past them because a lot of those teams are very offensively heavy, and Gaston can play defense.
Yeah,
they're very good at defense, and they got the weapons. They play offense that they can run the ball. they can put the ball on the ground and roll, and so you got a difficult task if you're playing them in a game. And teams that might be ahead of them might have played pretty good, like let's say Mariana. I'm sure they come up with a game plan to stop that top running back they got. But I would love maybe we got it in the budget to go see the game, be sitting at the game, because that's going to be exciting. Watching that region alone is difficult.
Yeah, when you look at the defense only giving up 141 yards total for the game, that just kind of showcases how this team has really operated this past season.
And in the past, Wakulla usually dominates this game. They've always been a team that it's been the opposite of what we just saw this last Friday. So they are on the way to having a tough team. I think they'll go deep in the playoffs, and this should be exciting, especially with the region they're coming out of.
Yeah, and this is without, I don't want to say that's part one of their top players, one of their leaders. Remember, Macho Vasquez went down in that Florida High game.
Vasquez,
he's done. This is without him that they're doing this. Of course, he was a huge kind of crucial part to that team. So shout out to him. But as far as their rolling, Mark, yeah, they are super dangerous. I'm trying to see who's going to stop them in the region. And that's an increasingly diminishing list, if there is one. Yeah.
It don't look
They
good.
always got a chance. There's always a chance, but
you know, you got to lace them up. You got to play the game.
and take everybody seriously, because there's no bye weeks in the playoffs.
No. That's the cool thing about playoff time in the state of Florida. It's such a I've seen so many 10-0 teams bite the dust in the first round. It's heartbreaking, but the smallest detail is the thing, that gets overlooked, ends up being the Achilles heel. Like the team that has the great ground game, but they can't throw, or vice versa. You get exposed in the playoffs like that. So typically what we find to the end is that only the real complete teams are the teams that can able to bounce back from those kind of flaws are the ones that end up, holding up the trophy at the end of the year. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about Chipley falling to Lafayette 48-7. That was a big one that I did not see this game getting out of hand like this. I definitely had the Tigers at home putting up a lot more of a fight in that one. And you hate to limp into the playoffs like that, but a tough loss like that just kind of kills your momentum if you're chippy. If you're Lafayette, man, you're gonna take everything you can get, because this was a team that a couple of weeks ago they were on the outside looking in, and then by virtue of their schedule and picking up some wins, this is exactly what the doctor ordered for them.
Yeah, I watched that online, and it never really was close. It looked like the Lafayette was just so much better than Chipley, in which it was a surprise. They moved the ball up and down the field. It wasn't really nothing they could do. Lafayette looked like they came on strong at the end of the season, and in the playoff scenarios we have now, that's a big deal, because teams with better records might be behind you, and you just want to be on an upswing when you go into the playoffs. It's really they dominated that game. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, absolutely rolling. So Chipley has led up 125 points in the entire season, 48 to Lafayette. So almost 40%, almost 40% of their points allowed for the entire season happened here. The emergence of Taiwan Williamson, ever since that Zarapath game, that he's really kind of jumped up, because it was Higginbotham that was starting in the beginning of the season. They kind of switched, and once they switched for that Zarapath game, like the offense has been rolling. You can see the kind of
they look really fun to watch. Like when them throwing the ball, Williamson I think had 4 touchdowns in the air. Jordan Murphy looks sharp, looks better than when I saw in the beginning. That's saying a lot, because he already looked good to start the season, but him at receiver, I think he had almost 100 yards receiving. This team likes to throw the ball, like 216 through the air. Just kind of lets you know, on a Chipley team that had great secondary defenders. Like, keep that in mind. They came in one of the area's top defensive backs to start the year, and I think that's saying a lot. So Lafayette is one of those teams we talked about. I wouldn't want to see them right now.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, because don't matter what your record is in the playoffs. Everybody's 0-0 right now. So you win, you keep going. You lose, you go home. And that's intensity. The intensity level in a playoff game doesn't match. It is more intense than you are when you play in a regular season game, because if I lose, we out of the tournament. And then some people make mistakes they don't normally make. Coaches coach a little different in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. So it should be exciting to see who they match up with and what they do with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like it, Coach. The intensity of playoffs is huge. They say pressure makes diamonds. Pressure also makes fossil fuels. And what fossil fuels do are you gas other people's seasons up. Now, there is
With
the
a little
flip
Bill
side.
Nye the Science Guy on us.
There is the flip side of that. Yeah, if you're making those mistakes, you either shine or you're fueling somebody else's drive to December, gentlemen. Yeah, Lafayette rolling right now, and they saved the season. They were on the outside. They were like deep in that B bracket.
Yeah.
It's like, some Undertaker type stuff.
Dang.
The Central Florida, something's in the water over there. Lafayette, Swanee, they're drinking that, mark that championship lemonade.
Oh yeah,
Something's going
there's
on
some
around
down there. We'll have to catch up with Coach Hall in this bonus week. They've got a big game coming up, but it'll be very interesting to have some conversations, especially with a lot of coaches now that we've wrapped the season. A lot of playoff football begging to be played right now, just itching to get to it. But let's finish out week 11. Swanee downs Childs, edges the Timberwolves 25-24. And how do you feel like, in my opinion, I feel like this was one that Childs really was looking to get. Because if they could have stolen that one, I think it would have changed their trajectory a little bit.
Yeah, that game was, I forgot what not Childs, but Swanee. They were behind almost to late in the game. And I'm looking, I'm flipping over. You guys be at one game. I'll be watching everybody, and I miss some things. And I looked on. I was watching my scores and stuff, and I saw that they had taken a 1-point lead, and I'm like, what? And it looked like Charles had the game under control, and Swanee just came back and played well and did enough to win. There go Jacobs.
Sims looked good in the game. That was the other thing. Because seeing him earlier in the season, there was still some miscues, a couple of things but this game here, he looked absolutely sharp. Like he looked like he'd found his rhythm, was able to make plays, look comfortable in the pocket. And these are things that you don't see in the stats, though.
Yeah, wow. I love to watch these highlights, Mark.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was, like you said, Charles would have loved to get it, but both of these teams had to have it. This was essentially, I know Swanee's got the game on Thursday, but this is a play-in game. Both these teams are at large. Both these teams coming into week 11, this specific game, these were both bubble teams. If you lose, it really, for Charles, the loss probably puts them on the outside looking in, though they're going to be very close. For Swanee, same thing. Loss would have put them very at risk. And so this turned into a playoff game, and you saw both teams put it all out there. And like you said, Jacobs was slinging it, finally started to click for Childs. This was a big league game, and it's a shame that we don't get 2 or 3 more weeks because it feels like both of these teams are starting to peak right now.
Yeah, I think for Childs, I think, Coach, you were right. The kind of sometimes the little cupcake games, and I know not trying to speak ill of North Bay Haven, but I think that was the jolt in the arm they needed to remind themselves, like, hey, we could play some ball. Because most of the times, like, losing sucks. It just does. Like, you get to a point where you don't feel like a team, and then you beat up on somebody real good, and then you feel like yourself again. So
you need victory, change your whole attitude, especially go back to school on Monday, and everybody patting you on the back, and you feel a little more pep in your step. It didn't matter who you beat, you won. You won, and I think when Charles get a taste of winning, I don't know if it's too late, but to have an opportunity to go to the playoffs, and you're playing for something. You're not just out there. As soon as the game over, we got to take our uniforms and turn them in. These guys knew they needed to win, and they gave a great effort. Came up short. Came up short with 1 point, and it drives you crazy. But hey, when you lose by 1, all you think about is what I could have done to improve myself. Swanee stepping it up. They were struggling at the beginning of the season. At the end of the season, they really have improved. And Close, I don't know. I guess we have to find out later on if they close to making the playoffs. And hey, it feels good. You got at least one more game to play.
Yeah, if you're watching us here on Instagram or wherever you're catching us, this is the Extra Point Podcast. We are breaking down North Florida high school football. More great games in the area. We also got the playoffs, or at least our version of the playoff breakdown on deck. We want to acknowledge Hangar 38 for being proud partners with 4Quartersonline. We wanted to make sure we gave them a shout out over on the north side of Tallahassee. Coach, to jump back into it, there's still a lot that kind of goes into scheduling and everything, but I don't think that a lot of teams recognize what they were going to become coming down the stretch, because we're seeing that the case with where it works for you and then it works against you. In our next game, Lincoln downs Rickers just 48-9.
That's why you called my name out.
I tried to soften the blow. I really did. I tried to ease into it.
I should have known. You called my name out.
For Lincoln, they needed the points. And me and Juke were talking about this when we were calling the Florida High Mosley game across town. We just, you recognize what's at stake, and being able to leapfrog a team, unfortunately, you might have to run the score up. It's an unfortunate part of the system we in, but that's just what the landscape requires. If you got to run another 20 points on somebody, you might have to do that.
Man, that's just an excuse. I don't think it would matter if they was playing for the playoffs or not. The score would probably be the same thing. They get as many points because it's a rivalry. It's a team is for bragging rights. When you see these guys, maybe see them at the I don't know if people still go to the mall. When you run into them somewhere, you kind of you got something to talk about. The other guy dodged because he got his butt whooped. Rickers they didn't play their best football. I seen them play better against good competition, and Lincoln just dominated. Because we did beat Gobby.
Gobby couldn't kick an extra point that game.
Excuses.
that game would have gone way different. But considering the way Rickers started this year, this is kind of a disappointing end to putting them on the brink, and they still got some life, although they'll need some help. But I'm not sure what the final point system is going to be. We'll have that in the second part of the show. But it's close.
Oh, we got to find out from Jude.
Yeah, Lincoln's rolling right now, and I mean, I think kind of what Coach talked about, Coach Lewis, he was having a young offensive line, and that's one of the strengths with Lincoln. And so sometimes you get a matchup, hey, you got two good teams, and sometimes they just are really good at something that is potentially an area where you can get got. And if you can get got, you get by good teams. And so I think that's basically what went down. And you have time to throw, and Sims is out there slinging it, and then Huggins is out there running up and down the field. And, I mean, we know what Lincoln's all about. The defense is mean, and the defense is peaking right now, and it's going to be hard to score on Lincoln the rest of the way.
I have really nothing much I can say. Congratulations to the Trojans. They played a great game, and there's nothing much I can say about that.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to see where Lincoln falls. I know that was kind of really both teams. We'll get a chance to see how that works out. But the way the Max Preps rankings are, you really don't know. So for Lincoln, it's only going to benefit them. For Rickers, it's only hurting them right now. So we'll look to see if the Raiders can squeak in come Friday. I think is the update now for the bracket reveal show. So we'll know by Friday, sometime during the day, on where these things fall. So, for Lincoln, I feel like this came at the right time. For Rickers, man, it hurts to end your season like that. I think Coach Lewis definitely was really looking for more out of this group, but he knew that they were young. So, for the Raiders, I think there's a lot still. Hopefully they can squeak in. There's Ricker still has a pretty stout offensive line that can create some movement there. And you really never know once you get into the playoffs, although they will probably draw probably the last seed if they do get in. Moving on around the area, some other scores. Walton beats all up on Bluntstown 48-7. And I didn't see this one being as lopsided as it was, but that pales in comparison to the next score, which was Port St. Joe blanket Jefferson County 45-0. So I think we had a pair of games where I thought the scores would be a little bit closer, and it just turns out that between Walton and Port St. Joe, I think they put up probably close to about 90 points there between those two. We're only giving up a touchdown respectively. So Sneeds was a big winner over North Bay Haven 33-6, ending their regular season campaign on a high note. And then how about this one? Bay and Bozeman. Bay ended the season with an exclamation point, 41-7 over Bozeman. And that was, I think that win came at the right time for Bay.
I was very surprised at that score. I thought it would be a tight matchup, but Bay looked like they're getting better at the end of the season, which is when you want to get better, right before the playoffs. And hey, there's not much you can say. I mean, Bozeman had been playing very well, and all of a sudden at the end, they a big score, 41, gave up 41 points to Bay High School. But hey, I don't know how close are they to.
Oh, they're automatic.
It's a county battle.
So what now?
They're in the same county, so that's like what I think probably a 30-minute ride, maybe.
Oh, yeah, from one end of the county to the other, yeah.
Yeah, you talking distance, coach, or are you talking between campuses, or are you talking playoff points?
I know that's your specialty, so.
No, you talking about like physical distance away from each other, or you talking about because they're not in the same class, though.
Yeah, but we trying to play for playoffs, and every game matters. Look like the way the system is set up. And I saw Bay play earlier. I think they struggled at the beginning of the season, and they won the district, but they struggled early, and then late in the game, late in the season, they did what a lot of these good teams going into the playoffs are doing. They got better, which is important.
And they got their starting quarterback back too, which helps. Xavier Morgan, he's healthy. He balled out in that game. But to answer your question, 27-minute drive. It's about 17 miles per the internet. So down the road.
I was driven from one school to the other, so it's a nice little distance. Right off of Highway 20 on, I think, going on 77 in that area, But until a few years ago, me not being familiar with the area, I didn't know they was in the same county.
But yeah, I think Bay is peaking right now. They really have gotten better down the stretch. It just feels like they have the feel of a complete team, or getting more towards a complete team right now. So we'll see how things shake out, because Bay is the district champion, so they got a guaranteed home game at Tommy Oliver, which will be a great atmosphere. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think Bozeman, and we'll look at where they fall. I'm not familiar. I can't remember how that's looking over there. But we'll talk about all the confusion and madness that is the rural playoff system in just a little bit. Let's finish rounding out some of these scores here. Freeport downs Liberty County 42-21. So the Battle of the Bulldogs goes towards Freeport's way as they get. Or should I say, as they end the season on a high note. And then Taylor County hooked up with McClay, and this one is the one that I was trying to pull up the footage for to see if we had it. But the Bulldogs, really, this one was a lot closer than I think a lot of people realized.
Yeah, this was back and forth all night. They were just trading touchdowns. 14-7, 14-14, 21-14. It was a seesaw the whole way. Good old matchup going on there.
35-28. Wow.
And McClay is used to those kind of games. They've been in a lot of seesaw games in the past, and then the thing about that was that then Taylor had to turn around and play Gaston County the following Monday. So it was definitely it was definitely kind of one of those things where when you look at it, it wasn't a good weekend to be kind of facing off against your toughest opponents like that.
Yeah. Playing Gaston County, that's not going to be good on the weekend or the weekday. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah, you get in an all-out battle, and then 67 hours later, you got to play. What are they, number 3? I know they're 1 and 2A. I don't know what they are in the most recent rankings. I think they were somewhere top. I think they were 7 last time the FHSA put anything out. I don't know what they are on Max Preps, but top 10 team in the state, 67 hours after going 48 minutes in a 1-score game.
Right. It just, hopefully this gets addressed sometime in the future, because it's not, the end of the world to try to play and giving out no free advertising. It's not the worst thing in the world to try and turn around and play these games when it's been a hurricane or something like that. But looking at how, especially seeing this bonus week, it would have been great to have a lot of these games played during this week number 12, as we'll call it, as opposed to trying squeezing them in on a Monday. It's really, and Coach, you can speak to this, trying to game plan with such short notice.
Well,
right downfield, especially if it's a district game, because it's so critical.
One of the problems is that some might be the coaches wanting to play, or the athletic directors not having personnel or have people there that they need necessarily to do the game at a certain point. So you want to get it out the way. You got a couple. It's not all about playing a game at a certain time. It's about who you're going to have during that game. You wasn't expecting it to have certain individuals. They might have had something else playing, and they got to get the game out the way, because they might like some of these schools, I think, had 2 games they had to miss, and they had to make up for it. So you want to get everything out of the way. You want to get because you want your points, because that's important. Right. I mean, that's very important now. You hate to miss the playoffs because you didn't play a game.
Right. But in this particular case, I think we'll start looking at it in the next segment. But that's one of those games where, like, winning only helps you, but it looks like how many points you put up helps you even more. Battle of no, this ain't a battle of anything. This is just Mariana taking on South Walton. Mariana did what they have been doing, a perfect 10-0 on the year. Can't say enough about this about the Bulldogs offense. Their offensive line gets all the credit. They basically have protected their quarterback and created holes for Amari Clemens. And this is just watching them, they just clear space. Like, there's just so much running room. And then, of course, Mays, I really feel like he doesn't get enough love. Like, he has managed this team offensively at an expert level. Shifty runner himself. Is not always Amari Clemens. They can turn to what is essentially a second dynamic back who can also throw. And then I think the real thing about, it doesn't get enough credit, but Mariana's defense has done a great job too as well. So just looking at how they have methodically gone through what is essentially that was a pretty decent schedule. I know that their initial the first 4 games, I don't think we knew that they were going to be very senior heavy and very experienced, but I don't think anybody saw 10-0 coming. So congrats to them. It's been a great run for the Bulldogs, and excited to see them definitely in the playoffs as one of our 10-0 teams.
Yeah, they had an exciting season. I mean, when you got the quality of players they got, I mean, you might not know 10-0, but you knew you were going to have a successful year. And I enjoy watching. I love to watch running backs. I enjoy watching him. I'm freaking out on the stance he got in the backfield. He just standing up with his hands on his hips, man. And I guess that's how they do the offense. This guy, he's a special cat.
Super shifty.
He's real special, and he's look like he got nice size, nice moves, physical. I enjoy. I really hope we can see the first round of the playoffs. I hope somebody broadcasts it. He's on. He's on the web somewhere. I would love to see once we have to find out the brackets. I love to see who they're gonna play. Maybe you never know. Maybe they'll end up playing Gadsden County. Wow, and that wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't be fair. That wouldn't even be fair.
Second rounds, maybe. Second round, they could get Florida High in the first round.
They could.
That ain't good for Mariana to play Florida in the first round.
Yeah, but it's like it almost seems back to your point about Clemens. He must be watching some Boise State film. Just a chill, nonchalant running back standing up, all the way tall. And
it's
like,
smooth.
Okay.
A genty.
It's smooth. I love the stance. Got his hands on his hips and boom. I'm looking at his form. Does he have any false steps? Or he just running the ball? He everybody they play, he got a big run. So, he's special.
All right, rounding out the first slate is Cottondale all over Joshua Academy, 64-6, and Cottondale, congrats, another undefeated team in the area, and at 9-0. I don't think they tried to squeeze in an additional game, but for Cottondale, very similar to Mariana, where they've gotten it done on the ground in an even more explosive way with Odoms and that entire offensive unit. They've got a pair of receivers out there that also are legit. And then, of course, their defense has been playing pretty lights out too. Got the added benefit of playing a team that was, kind of right at the right time, where it wasn't too much of a it didn't look like Joshua Academy was going to put up too much of a fight in this one. So Cottondale got to cruise, but it looks like they've been in this form the entire season, though.
Yeah, I watched Cottondale play a couple of games. It looked like the same scores every week. I don't know if they even had a close football game.
Right.
And I'm kind of wondering, like you, Mosley had a close game, and they kind of, it was difficult for them. And in the playoffs, you're going to run into somebody that can hang with you.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how they come out, because I've coached a team that was really successful. And the biggest word you got, you're blowing everybody out, and you get to a game where you got to fight. Sometimes it don't come out on the winning side of it. Your team not used to it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them because they're not going to get a good matchup. It's going to be a really tough round one.
Yeah.
There's a scenario where they even go on the road for a first round, going 9-0.
Something wrong with the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the case.
We're in agreement on that one.
I thought they were perfect, Coach. I think they're flawless.
Wait
All
a
right,
minute.
other scores.
Is that correct?
No, it's flipped, but
I knew you flipped. I just want to make sure, because I know I saw something else.
It's a happy accident, Coach. They happen.
Of course. I know you.
Dothan upends Gobby 37-31. Cougars fall on the road. And what was, looked like Gobby could hang for a little bit, and then Dothan kind of shut the door going away. So Cougars lose a little momentum, but they are sitting atop the district in their respective classification. There's still a lot of scenarios, but it's 3A, correct? I think it's 3A.
Yep, 3.
So Gobby in 3A still that class is a little bit more like we kind of know where things are there. There's still a lot of chaos going on at the bottom of that 8 through 12 kind of slot there, but right now, Gabi sitting at, I think, the number 2 team in the region. So overall in the state, I think they're number 9 or number 8. So there's a lot that, can still, work out to kind of shake things up a little bit. But as far as first round predictions go, I don't know, that could be a complete toss up for Gabi. So they end the season with the loss, but great turnaround for Coach Holston. Was up for FACA nominee, Coach of the Year. Felt like he did a great job. No, they can't give the award to everybody, but shout out to him for bringing the Cougars back, breathing some life back into the blue and white this season.
I don't know if I need to say anything about Gabi. They had a great season. I thought Coach Holston did a fantastic job. He took a team that was struggling for the past few years, and they changed everything. Other than the slip up they had early in the season, Ricketts, they kind of went on a roll, and you can see the improvement. You can see, and they got some special guys, special players out there. They can do a lot of damage in the playoffs. I'm not sure how the brackets will work out, but they are one of the teams. If I'm in the bracket, I don't want to play them either. So congratulations on a great season, and I look for them to do very well in the playoffs.
All right, keeping it moving. Leon gets the first dub on the year at the last possible minute, but hey, a win is a win, and I know you'd rather end the season on a high note than a sour one, so shout out to the Lions getting it done against Westside, 45-21. Coach Mosley and his group, they got their quarterback back. Have to wonder if, Leon would have been a little bit of different team in a few of those games earlier in the season, but man, a great way to go out. I know those guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Madison, a big winner over Lake Minneola, 47-7. And man, Madison just keeps getting, they just keep finding tune-up games out of like higher classification schools as we get closer to the playoffs. Just not much you can say. Just Madison just dominated another big win for the Cowboys, as they are now no, they don't have any bonus makeup games, so they're awaiting their round 1 opponent in the in bracket A, and I think they are ranked number 3 in 1A.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Excuse me, in the rural classification. So yeah, Madison just sitting back and waiting for them to make the selections on Friday. So Baby Rattlers in the season 0-10 fall into Houston County out of Alabama, 48-16. And for FAMU High, man, it's been a tough season. Coach Wise took over the program the beginning of the year. And just honestly, just from a talent level, I think there's numbers there, but yeah, just got to get some development going on over there on the south part of Wanish Way. So Baby Rattlers will turn in pads, unfortunately, but man, it could be bright things on the horizon for FAMU High if they can continue to develop the JV program and kind of put things back into order. So Branford, a big winner over Hamilton County. I thought this one would be a little bit closer, but the Bucks take it over the Trojans 39-12. And then this one I didn't have circled anywhere in my picks. I did not see we were falling to Central 28-34. Central was previously winless on the year, and then I thought we would have taken that one, but the Gators fall to the Jags 28-34. So I don't know. Did anybody have that one?
I did.
There you go.
You didn't write it down?
No, I went with Weaver.
You got to go back on the tape. No, I didn't.
Juke has it all recorded.
I didn't have it.
We all had I'm trying to pull it up now.
I didn't have it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm 99% sure that was Weaver, and it was across the board.
But yeah, there's I think there's a universe somewhere where like I think we had picked I think the one game we had all agreed on, like I think that has happened every week since we've been picking. There's one game we all agree on. We all get like completely fooled on who comes out the winner. Pensacola Catholic, and this one was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but Pensacola Catholic beats John Paul by a single touchdown on 35-28, and JP2 was hanging tough.
Yeah, Hughes is Tremaine has really done a great job at the program. They struggled playing they played a lot of tough competition early, and when they got into the late parts of the season, they were competing with anybody they played. I seen Catholic play, and they're a pretty tough team, and I was kind of surprised the game was going to be this close. JP2 is a very difficult team. They look good going into. I'm sure they're in the playoffs, right, Jude? They look like it right now, right?
Yeah, they're in for sure. Both these teams are district champs, so they'll be rolling on, man. But I think JP2, you'd love to see them get another shot at Providence in the playoffs because I think it's a drastically different story. They've got it going on right now. You talk about teams that get hot and healthy during the backstretch. I think they're right in there with the Swannies of the world, and they are going to be fiery to take down in 1A.
I agree with you, man. It's because Catholic is I don't know if people understand how good Catholic is. I watched them take down. They beat Walton. Walton, it wasn't even a close football game. They were more dominant. JP2 played better than Walton did against Catholic, and that's a tough team to match up with. And it looked like JP2 got their game. They're getting their game together at the right time.
Yeah, they traded blows with Pensacola Catholic in the game, but I think the thing that I really like about John Paul is just the fact that the defense has learned how to keep things in front of them. They've eliminated a lot of the earlier mistakes that they were making. They've, in my opinion, I think they've kind of matured a lot going down the stretch. They figured out how to essentially they might let you kind of move the ball a little bit, but they're not going to give up too much after that. And I think they've learned how to close the door in some tight situations to where that has made them into, I would say, probably one of the more dangerous teams going into the playoffs right now than a lot of others in the area. So we'll see how things shake out. But rounding out the scores, we have Vernon falling to Baker 34-7. And then, of course, our Monday night game, Gaston County blanked Taylor County 34-0. And then back on Friday night, Holmes County edges out of Alabama 36-32 to round out. And I think Holmes County really benefited from that game in the point system. So we'll go ahead and start getting over to that. But I think you said it bumped them up a little bit?
It will, obviously unofficial right now, but how about that sophomore running back, Mark Bailey? 102 touchdowns for the sophomore. Shut down those Alabama boys there. Two of us, I think, had Holmes County. Don't remember who the odd man out on that one was.
I think it was Mark.
Yeah, but they held their own, man. Strength in the trenches. And, I mean, if you can play good offensive line, I mean, we see it with Madison all the time, right? You can play good offensive line. You can do the run game. You can hang with these big 4A, classification schools from other states or, coming in with 7-2 record and take care of business. And that's kind of the identity of Holmes County, and they'll try to take that to rural ball next week. They're looking pretty good here, I think. I got to check back on the playoffs. But from what I remember, I thought Holmes was pretty good in.
All right, that'll do it for week number 11. Let's go ahead and very quickly, we're going to jump into week number 12. Bonus week. We got Port St. Joe 5-4 taking on Bluntstown, who is at 6-3. Then we got Wakulla. They will be hosting Swanee. And I think War Eagles at 6-3, Swanee at 4-5, and we were talking about Swanee earlier and just how important is this game right here. Gotta have it. I mean, I know that because it's a district contest, you need to play that game, but this has huge implications for the playoffs, though, for both teams.
Yeah, when I looked up there, so Swanee, I was like, oh, They got another game, and it's a district game. I don't know how will it affect Wakulla if they lost. I know it'll help Swanee, but you don't think you think it's do they? But I guess they have to play the game. But this week, I guess Swanee wants the game so they can improve their playoff position. Port St. Joe look like they ain't doing. They rolling, and is that they're in the same region with Bluntstown?
Well, they for rural they scrapped all the regions, everything. Everybody's at large, but I mean that's still a huge game. Both of those teams got to have it. Well, really all four of these teams. But yeah, Port St. Joe and Bluntstown will both be fighting at large. Once again, Port St. Joe, coming out of nowhere. I think 4 straight now for Port St. Joe. But to answer your question, Coach, more at stake for Swanee. Swanee's trying to lock it in. They should be good regardless. They're trying to cement it. But Wakulla, if they lose, they probably will not host. So I think they're fighting for hosting in the first round is kind of their biggest thing at stake.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. I'm guessing we're gonna count these as picks this week. So I got we're not doing a week 12 bonus week.
Why would you do that? I picked the winner. Both of them.
I think the Sharks at home have a lot of momentum right now, and I think Bluntstown away from the confines of what's that, Bow Stadium, just they do not play the same way. Not that they don't have a road win, but I have seen, just the complete turnaround of Port St. Joe coming down the stretch. They're trying to make sure that they end the season at 6-4. I know Bluntstown has a lot to play for already, but for some reason, I just think the Tiger Sharks are going to take this one. The next game I have a little bit more question marks about, but man, I don't know. Wakulla's been a little Jekyll and Hyde with us, the great showing at Baker County, but then the letdown against Gadsden County. I don't know. I think the Bulldogs might have something to say about that. It is away from Live Oak though, and that's the only thing that has me like kind of on the fence about it. But I think I might have to go with the Dogs.
I'm going with the Sharks. I don't know about this game with Wakulla and Swanee. I'm gonna go with Swanee. Kyler got the boys rolling. I'm gonna roll with Swanee. And if Wakulla think they have it already made, they might not play as hard.
Man, I was hoping you guys would go at least with both of the home teams or some kind of combination. I've got the same thing. The other team's just too hot. They're playing too well. Port St. Joe's got the passing game going. Ellis in the run game. Defense has been stepping up. They're at home. I love that. Swanee, maybe one, I don't want to say the hottest team, but one of these dangerous teams that a lot of people are going to sleep on. I'm not picking against Swanee right now. I'm going to take the Dogs as well. So no fun that we all have the same picks, but I got to stack points going to the playoffs, guys. I got to keep myself around. Got to keep myself in the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. But the way I wouldn't be surprised if the Bluntstown Port St. Joe game was close. I would be shocked if Wakulla and Swanee wasn't close. If that game was lopsided in any way, I would be absolutely like, man, did not see that one coming. So that'll do it for your Week 12 preview, your bonus games. I think it's definitely going to be an opportunity, especially for I think Swanee has a lot to gain. I think Wakulla also has a lot on the line there, just in Class 3A, because that could be the shakeup for Port St. Joe. Man, way to write the season if you do go out with a bang. For Bluntstown, it'll just be more of getting back to basics for them and doing what they do. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about it.
He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait for that.
Of course I waited. Of course I waited. We got to talk about. We gotta get all this information out to the people before we get to our stuff. We're doing a public service, Coach. You got to remember that.
No comment.
Hey, we all did pretty good this week. I'm proud of everybody. For the record,
he quick to put up second place, right?
Going on overall, I think this is hey, this is close. Y'all are like what, half a game between each other?
Let me ask you a question. Are we gonna do this during the playoffs?
We already said we were.
Okay, so I got a chance. I got a chance to overtake Mark. That's all that counts.
Oh yeah, everybody's got a chance for sure. Yeah, and I mean, you look at it, it's about 5% a pick right now, or 0.5% a pick. So I'm like 2 picks back of Coach and 8 picks back of Mark. So you're right there, Coach. You're like 6 picks away from Mark. So once we get the playoffs going, everybody's in play right now.
No.
Nobody's off the hook. I know he's got the tea going, or the lemonade.
Oh yeah, I got the championship sweet tea right here, baby.
Whatever he's drinking this week.
I'm drinking second place water.
Well, that's better than me, Coach, because it's bone dry down here in the wilderness of third place. Yeah.
Hey, I'm looking forward to the playoffs. It's gonna get real entertaining real fast. On deck, we now have the playoff preview. Man, this is my favorite part. I'm looking forward to this. Let's go ahead and talk about the 1A playoff picture. If you logged on now, this is what you came to see. Let's go ahead and get into it. In 1A, we have McClay, who is sitting at number 2 in the region, and St. John Paul II sitting at number 4 in the region rankings. So let's get a little bit of, for those who are confused. I know it's definitely a lot of y'all are kind of scratching your head a little bit. I'm right there with you. I too am very much like this right now, like just at the whole system. But just to break it down, the state is using the Max Preps rankings, and we have, I think in a right before we got started, we were talking about this. Like, there's some speculation that, because you'll see the difference between the Max Preps top 25 rankings, that there's just a lot of head scratching. We don't know why this formula is in place, but it is our de facto playoff model, because that will be the system that they will use come Friday for the selection show. So yes, we have a district champion. We have several district champions that are like well behind first place teams. We got a lot of head-to-head games that have been played and been decided, and we have teams just kind of floating around everywhere. So yeah, we'll try to explain this as best as we can. But for right now, we'll start off with 1A. The 1A playoff picture looks like this. McClay would be your number 2 seed. St. John Paul II, as a district champion, would be a number 4 seed. On the outside looking in would be Episcopal out of Jacksonville. But your top 8 goes Providence, McClay, Trinity Christian out of Jacksonville, St. John Paul II, University Christian, Impact Christian Academy, PK Young, and Trinity Catholic out of Ocala. And what that would mean, if things kind of held like you see them today, what it would look like is that John Paul would host, but they would draw probably University Christian, potentially Impact, if things stay the same. McClay would draw probably a PK Young or maybe an Impact, just depending on if these are indeed the final rankings. So that is essentially what your first round would potentially look like. From there, we can, definitely speculate. I would love to see a McClay John Paul rematch. I know those kids definitely be itching for something like that too. But the 800-pound gorilla in the room right now is Providence out of Jacksonville. And, the record notwithstanding, they had the head-to-head win over John Paul earlier. They looked really sharp in that win too. So we got to play the games for those reasons. But this is what the 1A playoff picture kind of looks like.
No, I can't. I don't. It don't make any sense. I mean, you got a team that beat another team and they rank below them. It's out of nothing. I mean, it's nothing to say about that.
Well, Coach, if we're down here at 1A and 1A is getting to you right now, maybe you don't want to be watching on Friday evening because, I don't want to jump ahead, but 5A is going to blow people's minds.
Yeah.
People are going to be freaking out. But yeah, this is going to be wild. McClay probably going to host. And this, I think, is largely accurate. I got to check. I don't know if Trinity won this week. I've got to check Trinity. JP2 looks good to stay in the 4. But Providence is probably going to be on the road because they did not win the division. They dropped the ball against University Christian. So University is the district champ. So they're probably going to play Trinity Catholic. Catholic is that division champion who beat PK Young. But there's probably going to be some movement there. And then you also, like ICA has a loss on the books to Gadsden for a forfeit, but that game has been taken off. So they've ruled it a cancellation, and then they've just deleted that game for the record. So ICA is going to jump up too. So yeah, this is going to get wild.
It's a hot mess.
Wait a minute. The number one team got to go on the road.
It's very possible that they could be, and that's what it's looking like. Yes.
Crazy.
But I mean, that's the thing is kind of to your model, Coach. You say win to get in, right? They didn't win the district, and so when you don't do that, you're at risk.
Yeah, we're.
Wait a minute, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Providence is number 1.
Mm-hmm.
McClay is number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do they go on the road?
If McClay plays a district champ, they'll go on the road. But if it stayed how it is, which I don't believe it would, they would host PK Young because neither of those teams, the 2-7, neither of those teams won the district. So the only time that the lower seed gets it, if the lower seed is a district champ and the higher seed is not a district champ. So like if JP2 played University, for example, in that 4-5, JP2 would host because they're both district champions. So it's real nice and confusing. So yeah, there was, I don't think it's on the table anymore based on how things are going to flush out, but there was a chance, as you see in this picture, where Providence could be on the road at the 8 seed, which is hilarious.
Yeah, that's laughable. And I do kind of feel like, man, throw the whole thing away. As a coach, that's got to be like the most frustrating thing. You beat the opponents you're supposed to beat. You just devalue district champions so much.
I don't understand why you would think the district champs would get the way they used to do it. The district champs win, then everybody at large, they play some in there. I don't understand.
I mean, these are scenarios, which is why this state went away from it, because that system used to be in place, Coach, with the point system. But a lot of people, that was a proposal that kept popping up. They're like, well, we've got these 2-team districts, which the case is with Trinity Catholic and PK Young. Right. All you got to do is win one game. So does this 1-win team potentially deserve the 4 seed?
Right. I understand.
Yeah.
I really am.
All right. This is the top 25 for Class 1A. And this is the Max Preps top 25. So this is separate. Again, even though Max Preps is providing the state with the internal ranking system that will be used on Friday, this is the Max Preps independent, I think, voter poll. So at the top, of course, is Chaminade Madonna, and they've kind of been in that spot all season long. Then you have the First Academy out of Orlando, which missed a couple of games this year. I think they're missing 1 game due to a hurricane cancellation.
Well, I'm not mistaken. I got a thing saying they had gotten some issues. First Academy.
There's quite a few. This is always, it's always going to be the case at this time of the year.
I got to look it up, but they might not be in the playoffs.
Miami Central had to vacate all 9 wins.
And I think they vacated theirs also. I gotta look at it. I gotta from my friend down south. He sent me some stuff, and you remember Everett? He coaches at Jones,
Yep.
and he was telling me about First Academy having some issues. I didn't read it, so I won't quote what was said until I read it, and then maybe we can talk about it later.
So the top 15 teams are mostly combined of region 3 and 4 teams. So you have Cardinal Newman out of West Palm, First Baptist, Trinity Christian out of Jacksonville, Carrollwood, Day out of Tampa, Benjamin out of Palm Beach. Rounded out top 10 is Miami Ederson. Then you have a few schools out of Jacksonville before you finally get to St. John Paul, who is ranked number 16, followed by Orlando Christian Prep. Then at number 18 is McClay. So it looks like they got it right here. But again, in the Max Preps rankings that the state is using to determine the playoffs, it is completely flipped. So I'm not sure how this is working. We see something that makes more sense here than it does in the previous official bracket. So this is gonna be fun. I'm not sure how we're gonna get through this, but we've done all the head scratching that we could do. This is just what it is. So we'll figure out how to make sure that we can explain it to y'all. So let's just keep it rolling. Let's jump into 2A, the 2A playoff picture. And this was kind of interesting because of course, at the top, you see Gaston County. No arguments there. The Jags are the number 1 team in the state, not just the region, but just in the region. We have Gaston County, Pensacola Catholic, which we just briefly touched on, Bowles out of Jacksonville. Then we have Mariana, Florida High, Taylor County, and then Walton. On the outside looking in and could really use some help is Bozeman, which we talked about how critical that game was against Bay was just the other week. So, aside from that, Freeport, South Walton also in that class, but the points really start separating after Bozeman. So, you kind of look at it and you go, well, a lot of this is where we really start to see how the system is kind of appears to be working, but with the Florida High win and everything from last week, we could see a huge shakeup here as well.
Yeah, dang, that is a heck of a group of games, of teams to play. You talking about Gaston, Mariana, Florida High, Taylor County, Walton. Man, I want to move up. That's gonna be real tough.
So in the bracket, we could see, of course, Gaston County will be taking on the last seed, which could either be Baldwin or Bozeman, just depending on how things shake out. Then it gets interesting because then you have Pensacola Catholic could be hosting Walton, which will be a rematch. Taylor County taking on Bowles is a tough draw for the Bulldogs. Then you have Florida High Mariana, and I would pay good money to sit and just watch that game.
It ought to be one heck of a game.
Florida High's defensive line potentially going up against Mariana's ground game. That would be one for the ages.
There you go. And yeah, I think with the big win, Florida High probably jumps Mariana. That won't affect it because they'll still go to Mariana because of the whole district champ thing, blah, blah, blah.
Which is even more confusing.
There you go.
All right, so this is the excuse me, I forgot the top 25, but I'll read that off for you real fast. In the 2A top 25, we have, let me make sure I pulled that up. 2A top 25, of course, at the top is Gaston County, followed by Cocoa, Cardinal Mooney, Bishop Verreau, Bowles out of Jacksonville, Bradford, who upended Leon in a big way earlier in the year out of Stark, then Florida High, Pensacola Catholic, Booker T. Washington, and then Newberry's your top 10. Mariana sits at number 14, according to the Max Preps human voter system. Then at number 19, you have Taylor County, and number 20 you have Defuniak Springs, Walton. It's just the inconsistencies for me that just make it really tough.
Wow. No comment.
Yeah, if you're looking for consistency, you're in the wrong business, Mark. Yeah, this is wild because you think of these other teams. This is like a crop. You got the Newberry, Bozeman, Freeport that are all, I think, up from Rural Bowl this year. Maybe Newberry was in previously, but these teams all making a big jump. And man, they really threw these teams into the Shark Tank because there is no room in these regions. But it feels like Bozeman and Freeport have shown glimpses of being playoff quality teams. But it looks like they'll both probably be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, it's weird like that, but this is where a lot of the action is going to be in Class 2A. So it'll go by fast, but get your popcorn. Like, you definitely want to focus on the first round because it'll get real thin after that real fast.
Yeah, 8 through 11. 8 through 11 is going to be that drop, because I hope they do it backwards, where the Gadsden County game is announced last, that they show that matchup, because the 8 through 11 is insane down there. Razor thin.
Shout out to Will.
There you go.
With the comment, Gadsden County could be Florida State right now.
They having fun, ain't it?
Because you got a shout out from Clifford C. Brooks.
Hey, what's up? That's one of my former players, man. What's happening?
All right. All right, let's go ahead and jump into 3A. This is the 3A region top 8. Starting out with Rains, Godby, Wakulla. Then we fall into a little bit of a gap here. Bishop Kenny, Baker County, Menendez out of St. Augustine, then Suwannee, then Bay. Both Suwannee and Bay picked up big wins. And you have to wonder if that could be a deciding factor. I know for Suwannee, they're just glad to get out of the being on the bubble. I know for Bay, that was absolutely crucial that they handled a lower class team. And I hate to say cover the spread, but it's almost like they got enough points to be able to come up with a resounding win that could bump both teams up a little bit. For the most part, I look at this and I go, okay, you have the ability to kind of take into contention like what you kind of see a Godby Suwannee rematch there a little bit, like I think off rip, but looking at the fact that Suwannee and Wakulla play this Thursday, like that's going to make this shakeup a little bit more interesting, because you could potentially see where, if Suwannee comes out the winner or Wakulla comes out the winner, you could see a whole shakeup on who Godby plays in the first round, let alone Wakulla and Suwannee. So, the War Eagles could just as easily be going out to Glen St. Mary or Jacksonville, as much as, Suwannee could draw Godby again or be playing somewhere close to the 6th spot or maybe even the 5, because I believe one of those teams lost this past week. I'm not sure if it was Baker County or Bishop Kenny, but for Bay, welcome to the party. And they're a district champion, which is really weird. For them to be a district champion, but also be fighting for their lives as they would host, I'm not sure how that would work out, because they would draw Reigns according to the seed. So I'm not sure who they would get.
What?
So,
man,
Drew, do you see them getting like a Bishop Kenny or something like that? How do you fix this?
I see. Well, if they stayed the same reigns, I don't think it will stay the same. I see Menendez going down. Suwannee will probably jump up regardless of the result against Wakulla. But yeah, if Bay stays at the 8, they might be able to creep up to 7 if Menendez drops. I'd have to check and see what Menendez did this week. That slips my mind. But I know a lot of those kind of Jacksonville area teams took an L this week. But yeah, Bay could travel to Reigns if they stay at that 1-8, because Reigns is also a district champ. So then once they're both district champs, then you go back to the seed, and then they'd have to head over to Jacksonville. And I know Reigns won this weekend. They're not playing a 10th game. So Reigns far and away, as far as the points, they love them. They are going to be 9-0 undefeated, number one seed, kind of like Gadsden, uncontested.
Yep.
It's going to be a no doubter, number one overall here in Region 1.
And then here is the top 25 in Class 3A. Gabi ranked number 8, but at the top you have the vacation of all those wins by Central. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the final rankings, but I have to assume that Reigns would assume that number 1 spot. And after that you have Northwestern out of Miami. Ugali, that we got a chance to see go up against Lincoln, would be number 3. Then you have Bishop Moore out of Orlando, Denellen and Titusville, and then Godby, followed by Escambia. That's your top 10 right there, going down to what's that? Eastside out of Gainesville, and then you'd have Sarasota Booker. Swanee sitting at number 14 sitting at 14 and 15 respectively are Swanee and Wakulla. And then Bay rounds out the top 25, sitting at the number 23. So we could see a lot of those teams move up, but really the crucial part is where this game on Thursday is going to be super huge for Wakulla taking on Swanee. It's going to have implications on where they sit, who they draw in the first round, and that's going to be key as these final rankings are going to go into contention on Friday. So we'll check everything out during the selection show. Maybe we'll have to see if we can go live or something like that, because it'll be very interesting looking at the playoff picture moving forward. Let's go ahead and jump into 4A. And this is where things also get interesting as well. I know we had somebody asking about the Trojans. Let's go ahead and talk about 4A is Arnold and Rickards. So and just honestly, like, looking at how this is sitting for the Raiders, it just sucks that they're right there. And of course, this is not the final. This is really from week number 10. So this is not the final ranking. So Columbia could very well swap places with Rickards. It's very likely that may happen. Sitting right there dead in the middle, though, is Arnold at the number 5 spot. So at the top is St. Augustine, Choctaw, Escambia, Pine Forest, then the Marlins, Riverside, Ed White, and then the Raiders. And this was per week number 10. So sitting on the outside looking in is Lake City, Columbia, and that could be theirs for the taking. We'll find out on Friday, but Raiders for right now have a little bit of life, but we're not sure how much. So Rick on at the number 8 spot, they would draw St. Augustine, and that would be a tough road matchup in the first round.
Rick is I don't think I'm looking at it. I don't know how they do it. A 4-6 team is over 5-5. I'm looking at the records of some of these teams. Wait a minute, Pine Forest is 4-5, and they ranked way ahead. Oh man. I don't understand.
That's the strength of schedule at play, but yeah,
they must have played some pro teams or something.
Yeah, there you go. It's
Pine Forest had a they're out of state opponents. I think they had 3 out of state prominent opponents. So I'm not sure how that works in either, because strength of schedule in Alabama is not strength of schedule in Florida.
No, it's not. And I don't understand how out of state game affects the rankings in the state of Florida. It shouldn't, in my opinion. But I'm not on the board. I'm not doing it. I don't do anything. So what's my opinion? It doesn't matter.
You're not on the board yet, Coach.
I'll probably get kicked off the first week they start coming out some of these rankings, and I'll let everybody know I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
Columbia had the big win over North Miami Beach last week, which is only going to help them. So.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be real tough for Rick. It's really hard, and I think that's a big kind of crucial standpoint for the people who like the Max Prep rankings. They really love strength of schedule. So this is a little bit of a twist to what the Max Prep rankings are. Florida hates losing records in the playoffs. The state has been very clear. They're trying to villainize teams with losing records. So Columbia got to 500 and Pine Forest got back to 500, each with wins this week. Rick is going to go to 4-6. So if the consistency from week 7 onward plays out, it probably looks like Rick is on the outside looking in. Columbia will most likely jump.
Shoot.
Yeah, just a tough way to end that season. And you go back to Rickards, that game against Arnold was so crucial.
That was the game probably that might have done
that could have saved their season, and playoff hopes would have put them in a much safer spot. Shout out to you, Jonathan. We appreciate it. You hate that it's this close, but also you can see where there are some serious flaws in the system. I do believe in at-large bids, but the way that district champions are being handled, like, it's just kind of weird right now. Arnold, however, would be right there in the thick of things and would draw like a Pine Forest, maybe an Escambia in the first round. Doesn't look like they'll host anything though, as the Marlins will be on the road. But I think Arnold has done enough to really say that they could, be in contention with quite a few teams on this list. Just looking at what Arnold has done and put together, had tough losses with. I think Choctaw was one of their tough losses, and then of course Mosley. But other than that, Arnold's been in every game. I think they had the lone hiccup with South Walton, where they were able to kind of put some things back in order. But they really, I think Rickers gave him a lot, and Arnold really handled it very well going down the stretch. It would be great to kind of see both of these teams in the playoffs, but for right now, it looks like Arnold's spot is secured as we look at the 4A top 25. And just again, this is one where let's just try to make sense of this. We got American Heritage out of Plantation, Norland, Jones, St. Augustine, Port Charlotte, Naples, Vanguard, Choctaw at number 8, Jesuit out of Tampa, and then Plantation. That's your top 10. We don't get to Columbia, Lake City until number 18. Arnold's nowhere on this list. And then at number 25, according to the Max Prep rankings, is Rickards. So again, it looks like there's just wild across the board. Like, I'm not really sure how. I'm glad that one system doesn't factor into the other, but I just have more questions than I have answers at this point.
It's crazy.
Strength of schedule. The Max Prep loves the strength of schedule. That's why you see Rick there. They don't like Arnold's strength of schedule. They love Columbia's strength of schedule. That's where the bolsters come in there, as you can see.
I feel like head-to-head should count a lot more in that particular regard. Then, if strength of schedule is going to count for that much, then you gotta bump head-to-head a little bit higher than that. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's get into the 5A playoff picture. Jonathan, we're finna answer that question for you right now there, buddy. Let's go ahead and talk about where would Lincoln fall right now, according to the week number 10 Max Prep rankings. So we have not talked about the recent in this, even though I put the record in, they have not updated the recent loss from Florida High by Mosley. So this could shake up. And of course, Niceville won and Lincoln won big. So let's go ahead and talk about this is as it is currently. Again, we will find out the final rankings on Friday. Mosley sitting atop the heap as the number 1 team in the region. That will probably more than likely change. Not sure how far down they will drop, but they follow very closely, very, very closely, extremely closely. If you notice, all of these teams got 18 point whatever. So it's literally 100th of a point that separate these top 3 teams. But Mosley, number 2 Niceville, and then number 3 Lincoln. And when I say close, I mean like your fingernail. So we're looking at what essentially could be a huge shakeup with Lincoln winning big, Mosley falling, and then, man, you broke this down better than anybody. I'm going to go ahead and let you just talk about it.
So I dedicated a lot of man hours to this specific region, and it's going to upset a lot of people because of the impact that the FHSA puts so much stake in your personal record, which is good, right? At face value. But when you're doing it on a week-to-week comparison, it's not about your overall record. So you see the 9-1 from Mosley as compared with Ponte Vedra, who won their game. So they're at 8-2 now, or even Lincoln, who's 8-2. So you can't take those things at face value. You have to see the progression week to week. Consider it like a bank account. The state, you have your work schedule, right? Your work schedule is your game schedule. So you haven't actually worked those hours until you play the game. And think about you playing the game and you get the check. So the check is in hand after you played the game, kind of like a situation where we are now. But until the FHSA comes out with their new numbers, the check hasn't been deposited, so you can't go spend that money. So all that to having said, Mosley, from a percentage standpoint, their record win percentage is dropping 10%. So they go from a perfect 1,000% record to a 90% clip, and they're going to get penalized pretty significantly. I ran some numbers, and they're probably going to drop third. There's even a situation they could drop fourth because the numbers like Ponte Vedra as well, because of the one loss to a good Florida High team. But there's a distinct possibility, and this region is going to be crazy. The top 5, except for Middleburg, I think everybody moves except Niceville and Middleburg this week.
Yeah.
Everybody's going somewhere. Beach side's going down. Fleming's going up. Mainland could get up to 6. Mosley's going down, maybe 3, 4. But it's all over the place. Everything's at play. But there's a distinct possibility that it goes Lincoln, Niceville, Mosley in this region. Niceville has beaten Lincoln head-to-head, and then Mosley has beaten Niceville head-to-head. So it could be completely inverse of what we've seen kind of take place on the field if we use that kind of transitive problem. That is kind of the short version. If you want some more details, get in the comments. I've got a great 20-minute video exclusively on this region that I'd love to share with you.
Hey man, shoot me that link because we gotta reshare that for you, man. That was great stuff. And the thing about it that makes it so wild is that we have seen Lincoln, Mosley, and Niceville all play each other in some combination. The only combination we haven't seen is Lincoln versus Mosley, which could be a regional final. We really don't know. Right now, it's just more so looking at Ponte Vedra. Like that game against Creekside they had last week was crucial because I think it was a 5-point win for them, like 30-25 or 35-20 or 30 or something like that. But it was close. And the thing about that is that like now you with Ponte Vedra winning, that kind of solidifies them right in that. And then of course we haven't even talked about district champions because Lincoln's a district champion. We haven't talked about the fact that Mosley's a district champion. Like none of this seems to really matter in this scenario. And it'll get really confusing here in a minute because this is the Max Preps 5A top 25. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Sitting at number 1 is Lakeland, followed by St. Thomas Aquinas, Manatee, Tampa Bay Tech, and then Lincoln is at number 5. You got to go another 4 spots to find Mosley in there. So right before Mosley is Niceville. And remember, Mosley had the head-to-head win over Niceville. None of this makes sense. But yeah, that they're all in your top 10. You keep going down at some point in that. Nope, I missed them. But there was a universe somewhere where when you look at this, Childs was hanging right there by a thread on the outside looking in. And then the loss to Swanee surely just kind of lost the Timberwolves out of the playoffs. Just one of those things where when you look at how, great that the Timberwolves are figuring it out, but it was made for a really awkward scenario having like a 3 or 4 win team in the playoffs taking on a 1 seed. So that goes back to your argument, that you made before.
Which argument? Because I had a lot of them. If I beat you, you shouldn't be ranked over me because we know I'm better than you. I beat you. And then teams that you played ranked. I don't know how you as a coach can come up with, if you close, how do you plan? You don't know. The bracket comes out Friday, right? Normally it would have came out Sunday, right? And you'd have had to get ready for a game that week.
Mm-hmm.
But since they coming out Friday, I don't know. I'm just
if things would have been normal, you would have seen the playoff reveal show on a Sunday morning.
Right.
So it would have been what was that, the third? It would have been the third, usually like 10 a.m. or noon, they would have dropped it. So that's what you would know going into that Friday. Okay, let's get some film. Boom. So by Sunday night, you're in there studying.
right.
But it's going to be a wild ride. And this is going to be crazy because Ponte Vedra could slide in there too. And Mainland started 0-5. Mainland's ripped off 5 in a row. No one, and I know this on good authority, no one wants to play Mainland right now.
Yeah.
They won their district, so they could be getting into a collision course. They could go up to 6, which gets you into the Mosley Mainland conversation potentially.
And then here's where it gets really funky because and if I'm looking at the region correctly, no, you'd have to get into region 2, which region 2 is Tampa Bay Tech, Lakeland, and Orlando Edgewater. That's region 2. So yeah, you could definitely be playing a regional championship and having to make 6.5 hour bus ride. And these are the times we live in. So, all right, I got to save some energy because this is some madness here. Let's go ahead and talk about the rural classification.
We didn't. I thought we had already talked about it. I mean, you got my head spinning.
No, we talked about 1A.
I know.
We didn't talk about rural yet.
I know.
Oh, Mark, I want to get to our boy John gave us a shout out. So I want to answer his question. It's looking like, and if I had to guess today, Lincoln would have the 1. This is me personally, based on the numbers I ran. Lincoln would get the 1, and they would host Middleburg. To answer his questions, hosting Middleburg. Sorry.
Yeah, hopefully we answer that for you, Jonathan. But yeah, that looks like, again, that definitely looks like the kind of matchup where it's just like you can see Lincoln being able to now make a serious run. It's weird like how that goes because if you're evenly matched, and I've seen this happens in the playoffs every year. You've seen this, coach, where it's just kind of like, that there are 3 or 4 teams that, y'all mirror each other. But by the time you get to the third round of regional final, you hoping not to see one of them.
You kind of, back in the day when I was coaching, not too long ago, you can kind of figure your way through the playoffs. Well, who you going to see in the second round? Who you probably going to, who you kind of already had it figured out. Now, I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't have a clue.
Nope.
All right, so let's jump into the craziness that is the rural classification. Again, we'll explain this in detail. So the way it works, and this is the ruling per the FHSA. So let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. The 20 top ranked schools will be placed in the A bracket. So there are 2 brackets, A and B. So the top 20 schools in rural A, in the rural classification, will be placed into the A bracket. The remaining schools will be placed into the B bracket. For the A bracket, the schools ranked from 13 to the top 20. So basically, they will draw the line at the top 12 schools will participate in what they call play-in games. So that'll be, if you're a 13 seed, you'll play number 20. 14 will play 19, 15, 18, and so on and so forth. That will determine the final 4 spots of the traditional 16-team bracket. So they're basically taking the top 20 teams. They're letting the bottom 8 duke it out to see who will create the final 16-team playoff bracket. For the B bracket, the number of playing games will be determined by the number of schools in the B division to create a traditional 16-team bracket using the same format as the A bracket. So basically, they're doing the same thing, but I'm going to get to something that I had a huge question about later. The higher seed will always host the regional tournament. So basically, they're going to take the top 20 schools. Everybody else will fall into the B bracket. So essentially, this is what bracket A looks like. Union County, Hawthorne, Madison County at number 3, Pahokee, Chiefland, J, Cottondale, Osceola Christian, Chipley, Fort White, Blountstown, and Lafayette are basically, I would say, hold up, let me make sure I got that right. Those are your top 12. Everybody else underneath is 13. These are everybody else below the line. These are the teams that will play in your playing games. So number 13 is Williston, 14 is Holmes County, 15 would be Franklin County, followed by Branford, Fort Meade, Baker, Port St. Joe, and then rounding out at number 20 is Jefferson County. And this is as of week number 10. So again, nothing from week number 11 has been accounted for yet. The Tigers right now currently are hanging on to that number 20 spot, but they could fall into the B bracket, which is everybody else. So this is still up in the air, but the way this works, and again, going back to the Swaggy P question mark meme, is this pretty much like a why? I don't know why we're doing it this way, but what that basically means is that the first round we'll see Williston versus Jefferson County in the play-in games, and that will determine the 16-team playoff bracket for the A bracket. Now B, it's not enough teams to create a 16-team bracket, so I'm confused there. Or at least that was the exact ruling that was worded by the FHSAA. So these are everything I read was straight out the book. That is the ruling as it sits. But what that means is that there's only 14 teams left. So when do you start the playoffs for the B bracket, or excuse me, the playing games? What are they determining? Because you're not going to have 16 teams. So are you going to try to create something out of what the 14 that you do have? Like, how do you? So, are they going to do it like the NFL and like you just got 12 teams in 2 brackets of 6? Like, how is this working? So I have so many questions here. But in the B bracket, we talked about Jefferson being on that number 20 spot. They could fall into the B bracket, but after that is Marathon. Which, if you don't know where Marathon is, that is in Key West, basically.
I don't want to take that trip.
Yeah, we start, and this is what people don't understand about the rural classification. It includes schools that are truly rural, but when you think about what that could mean, all right, so yeah, I got Fred chiming in. B bracket is going to be 12 teams. So yeah, Fred, on the FHSAA site, it clearly says 16. So obviously they need to update the rule book because we pulled that straight from the site. But a lot of this is basically, again, I just scratch my head and go, why are we choosing to do it this way? Because the travel could be absurd, especially in the B bracket, because you now have Sneeze, you have Liberty County in that bracket as well. This could be a nightmare because considering where, Marathon is, they're sitting at the top of the B bracket. And at the, when you look at the playing games, I don't know how that works, where you get a team that's going down to Marathon. And again, for those of you who don't know where Marathon is in Key West. It's in the Florida Keys. So we're really talking like a lot of travel for schools that are really at the lower end of being able to afford travel in such games. Because 98% of the teams in the rural are along the I-10 corridor.
I got a question. It looked like in rural that every team in rural gonna make the playoffs. I'm looking at all these.
According to the rule book, yeah, that's what they have.
It's outdated. Yeah, it's what the bylaws say. That's on the state. They didn't update it after their press conference with the hurricane situation. So as part of the bonus week, what they did is they clipped 17 through 20, and they're actually going to split it into a 16 and 16 situation, is what they said, because otherwise you can't fit 5 weeks before December 6th.
Right.
Because you get the rural game, you only get 4 weeks, so you have to do 16 teams. So they've actually clipped that bottom end. And so, yeah, you don't even get those 20. So if it started, that would put Jefferson in the B bracket. But this is supposed to be, and this is what I don't understand, to your point, Mark, this is supposed to be like a testing version situation in the B bracket.
Yeah, throw that test in the trash.
But why are we it feels like we're dragging our rural teams into the ground.
You're doing it at the expense of a lot of programs who just can't afford it. That's my thing.
Because they're not going to get a trophy because the state champion is going to be in the A bracket. So if I'm a school, I'm not playing this B bracket.
Exactly.
I'll have a bowl game, maybe.
Or why not create a state championship game out of it? It doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna have the games, let it be for something. That's what kills me. You want the kids to suit up and participate in this, and they're not competing for anything.
Did you get the text from Fred about marathon?
No, I got the text about First Academy.
I sent you that. I'm talking about Fred sent me something saying that marathon declined to participate.
Oh, wow.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the B bracket does nothing. They're not handing out a trophy. They're having it at the villages, so they're still expecting them to play a tournament. Who are they going to get to sign up for this?
Hey, somebody.
Yeah, I have more of just a kind of a I just have more of a head scratcher as opposed to, just looking at that there were other solutions in place that were more economical. Let's just be real. And honestly, why not create a championship game out of the B bracket? Why not? You're what? Like another, I guess as far as like the stadium is concerned, like, yeah, you have the B bracket in the afternoon early, you have the A bracket in the nightcap. I mean, it's why are you not monetizing this? This makes no sense. Nobody wants to play for a participation trophy in especially around Thanksgiving time. I'm like, nah, if I'm going to be practicing football on Thanksgiving, I want to be playing for a title.
Cash prize, maybe, for the program.
Fred said that they are going to crown the B champion.
Tell Fred to comment in the chat.
You're going to give him a trophy?
He keeps saying, tell him, yeah, Fred, if he listens, he'll see.
So Fred got both our numbers, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Fred Anderson down in Wildwood, keeping us updated on some ongoings. I'm gonna put the A bracket back up there.
That's what they should do. They should do, okay, so I get if you want to keep the purity of the A bracket, get them the trophy. B bracket, you don't want to give another trophy because then you basically got another classification, whatever. But it's like, hey, if we're properly monetizing this championship,
right? Why are you not capitalizing off of that? Because if the rule really is what it is, like, yeah, the schools deserve some kind of something. Like, something got to be going back. You're asking a lot of people to like suit up and play what is essentially like a non-bowl type of system, and it's just cap it at 20 teams. If you didn't make the top 20, we'll see you next year. But everybody, at least at that point, you know where you stand. You're not playing for pride or anything like that. 13 weeks into the regular season, like nobody wants to do that. So, it's just confusing.
You know what y'all did? Y'all just gave me a headache. That's what you did. I mean, if it's that complicated, gosh.
Yeah.
It used to be simple. It really did. You win your district, you come in second place, both of y'all make the playoffs. Over. Nothing to think about. Now you got these formulas, these different things. It's a headache. Make it simple.
It really is. But that is the playoff. That is the playoff picture as it stands now. And so, for everybody, I hope you were able to kind of keep up. We're going to break it down again when the brackets get released.
And we
after
actually
Friday.
know.
But I don't have any. I wish I could give some solace to certain teams because it's totally unfair how certain things in the system have it broken down. But hopefully we'll be able to make some sense of this after Friday. We'll definitely be keeping an eye out on the selection show that comes out on Friday. So,
Mark,
Yeah.
just quick pitch. All right, I know
Just blow me away. Blow me away. Go ahead.
I know we're trying to wrap this up, but okay, you don't get to play for a state championship, but battle. Could you imagine a marketing campaign? Jefferson, Sneads, Dixie. Let's throw Wildwood in there for your Final Four. Sneads, Jefferson County, Dixie, Wildwood playing for $10,000 at the Villages. Winning program. They have a banquet, or they
sounds like an NIL deal to me.
I mean, Gatorade's supposed to be our lead sponsor here at the state. Have them write some checks. Let's get these schools some money, Mark.
I think this is just all this is just a lack of innovation. Like, wait a minute. The job is being done for you because the product's on the field.
I just got another text. I don't know if Fred texted you. He says these schools have opted out. Central, Hilliard, Liberty County, Marathon, Northview, and Vernon.
So that's Vernon and Liberty County have opted out of the B bracket. Mm-hmm. And who can blame them? If you're not playing for anything, why are we doing this? Plus, at a smaller school like that, you have so many kids that, wait a minute, I'm dedicating more time to a sport where I can't compete, but I hoop. I play basketball. Because clearly that's the case at most of the rural schools. You're playing 3, sometimes 4 sports if you run track. So it doesn't make any sense. So I definitely side with those who are opting out. Like, wait a minute, it's not in the budget. That's more money for the girls' soccer team. That's more money. Like, we're not making anything at the gate. We got to travel. Like, nah, I can't see any responsible athletic director wanting to do that. And it just feels like a waste of time, really.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, hopefully everybody was able to follow along. We appreciate all the comments and everybody who tuned in tonight. A little bit longer of a show, but we had to break down playoffs, baby. It's playoffs times in the state of Florida, and it's a wonderful time for football. We've got some great bonus games. We got Port St. Joe taking on Bluntstown on Thursday, and then we got a huge one down in Crawfordville with Wakulla taking on Swanee. So we're going to keep an eye on those games, and then we got selection show on Friday. So we appreciate everybody logging in tonight. My tag team partners, Coach Cofield, Andrew Jupe. I'm Mark Adams from 4Quartersonline. This has been the Extra Point. We'll catch everybody next week for the first round of the state playoffs.